Set?
You good?
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Mr. White? Live. Thank you. Welcome to the Wareham Conservation Commission meeting of Wednesday, November 17th, 2021. Denise, Ron, Michael, Alyssa, and Sandy are present with Agent Dave Pichette. Alyssa, would you like to do the first hearing, please?
Sure. Town of Wareham. Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, November 17th, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. on the request for determination of applicability for Ann C. Loring, P.O. Box 143, South Walpole, Mass. 02071, to replace access stairs to the beach located on Assessors Map 53, Lot 160, 15 Monroe Parkway, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Thank you. Is there anybody here representing this project? Please come forward and identify yourself.
Nelson Loring.
Come up so we can hear you. Whoever,
Yeah.
yes, please.
Nelson Loring.
Thank you. Mr. Burchett will read to the project.
Excuse me?
Mr. Burchett will read to the project, then I'll ask for comments. Okay?
This project site is at 15 Monroe Parkway, which is in the Briarwood area. And this project involves the replacement of access stairs to the beach located at this site, which is on the coastal beach. There was an existing deteriorated stairway that is being replaced with a 4x4 landing with stairs down to an existing concrete pad in a similar size as what it had existed. The work had already started in terms of placing the support poles and some of the framing work when I had discovered what was happening there, and then spoke to Mr. Loring about the fact that that needed conservation approval. So he submitted the application to us. Again, it is a replacement of the existing 4x4 landing and stairs. And the only work was to install the two pilings that would hold up this landing. The other end is connected to the seawall on the landward side. So I would recommend the issuance of a negative determination number 2 for this project to approve the work.
Thank you. Nelson, is there anything you want to add?
No. No, everything is in the application.
Thank you. Okay, questions? Denise?
No questions at this time.
Thank you. Ron?
I don't have any questions about the project, but the only thing that I'm going to bring up, because part of my duties, is that it was started prior to coming to us, so we need to discuss some type of fine for starting prior to coming to the commission.
Okay. Michael?
I guess the only question I would have is the stairs are going to go directly down onto the beach. It's just like apparently a couple neighbors. It's not going to go further out, correct?
Nope, it's going to land right on the existing, where it was before. And
All right.
it's, there's a concrete pad there already.
Okay, so it's basically replacing the other one.
Excuse me, sir?
So the stairs are basically replacing the old stairs, and that's all?
Yeah, replacing the, is that what you're asking me?
Correct.
Yes,
All right.
replacing, yeah.
No questions.
Thank you. I was going to ask you next.
I know.
Is there anybody in the audience would like to comment on this project? I'm seeing none.
I move to close the hearing.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed.
I make a motion to approve the project with a negative determination 2.
Second.
And?
Fine.
And?
Oh, and discuss the fine?
No,
Is that what you're looking for?
give
Well,
it fine.
we should be including it in the motion.
Yes.
So we have a motion.
To
and
approve
We have a
negative
motion and a discussion,
on a fine.
yes. So what would you like?
I mean, we just need to stay consistent with any other ruling that we
Yeah.
have. Now we can go by the guidelines of what our bylaws say. which would be?
So $200, any work requiring conservation approval in flood zone or 100 foot from the edge of wetland or 200 from riverbank that would have been permitted, plus filing of a request for determination or notice of intent. So this project would have been approved if we had heard about it first and approved it, so it looks like a $200 fine is within our guideline for the particular project.
So moved.
So the motion is for -2 and a $200 fine for starting the work without approval.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain? Done. So please see Mr. Bichette before you complete some more work on it, so you can get the paperwork signed.
What am I supposed to do?
See Mr. Bichette
Okay, okay.
before you finish the work, so you have
Sure.
your paperwork all signed and ready to go, okay?
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, November 17th, 2021, at 6:30 PM on the request for determination of applicability for James Bach, 204 Blackmore Pond Road, West Wareham, Mass. 02576, to install a ground-mounted solar array located on Assessor's Map 68, Lot 8, 204 Blackmore Pond Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Who's here representing the project? Can you come forward and identify yourself? I'm all set. You're gonna have, can we move a chair for him so he can get close to the microphone? Thank you.
I am James Bach.
Thank you, James. Mr. Bichette will read to the project.
Okay, so this project site is at 204 Blackmore Pond Road, and the project involves the installation of a residential ground-mounted solar array in the buffer zone to wetlands at this site. An 11 by 57-foot array is proposed, approximately 85 feet from the edge of the wetland. This would require the installation of 10 12-inch sonotubes to support the array. I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 3.
James, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think everything is in the application.
Okay. Questions? I'll start with Elisa.
None right now.
Michael?
None at the moment, thank you.
Ron?
Yeah, just, is there gonna be any battery storage?
No,
No battery storage, so just straight?
just straight solar goes into from the array into the panel. And then from that, from the pole, utility company's gonna take care of everything, I guess.
And is it, looks like if I count it, is it 40 panels?
It should be 40 panels, yes.
That's it.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Denise?
This is within the 100-foot, you said, David?
Yes.
And that's not a problem?
No?
No, it's 85 feet from the wetland.
Wetlands?
Yeah.
And only 2 sonotubes actually be in the buffer zone. So the rest of it's outside, but we're right on the edge.
Okay.
Thank you.
So is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this project? I'm seeing none.
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed.
I make a motion to approve the project with a negative determination number 3.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Project's approved. Please see Mr. Bichette for your paperwork before you can start.
Very good,
Thank you.
Notice of public hearing pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. Or on Wednesday, November 17th, 2021, at 6:30 PM on the request for determination of applicability for Gary Jonitis, 95 Shore Ave, Wareham, Mass. 02571, to construct a garage located on Assessor's Map 50D, Lot 27, 95 Shore Ave, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. Anybody here representing the project, please come forward and identify yourself.
I'm Gary Jonitis. I'm owner and resident of the property.
Thank you. Mrs. Burchett will read to the project.
This project is at 95 Shore Ave in the Swifts Beach area, and this project involves the construction of a garage within a coastal flood zone. A 24 by 28-foot garage is proposed within flood zone VE elevation 20. The project is not in the buffer zone to any other resource areas, and there's no significant grade changes proposed, and the site is a relatively flat area anyway. So I would recommend the approval of the project with a negative determination number 2.
Thank you. Gary, anything to add?
No.
Okay. Denise, questions?
I just have to state that I'm a neighbor of Mr. Joantis's. I'm not in a butter, and it will not affect my vote.
Thank
No
you.
questions.
Thanks, Denise.
Ron?
No questions, it seems pretty straightforward, no issue.
Elisa?
No questions.
Michael?
No questions.
I'm surprised you've got space for this. Everything's so close and
I'm on
tight down the
4
street.
lots. I'm on 4 lots over there.
One of the very few Swiss Beach property that's more than one.
That was the only thing I was thinking was, where's the space down there? Because I live down in Swiss Beach too, so, nowhere near your
Yeah,
project.
no, I'm on the corner of Shore Ave and Beach Street.
Yeah, so you got that, the corner
I'm
of
the
the
whole
full,
L.
full
It's the L-shaped lot there.
Well, then I guess you got the space for it.
I do.
Is there anybody in the audience would like to speak to this project? I'm seeing none.
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion to close the hearing and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, the hearing is closed.
Make a motion to approve the project with a negative determination number 2.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, it's approved. Please see Mr. Bichette for the paperwork before you start anything, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
David, are we done with the public hearings, or is the last?
Can you read the next one?
Read it?
Moving
Sure.
along.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protected Bylaw, Division 6. A public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, November 17th, 2021, at 6:30 PM for the notice of intent for Dana L. Livy and Denise A. Long, care of Brayman Surveying and Associates, LLC, 61 Allen Street, Marion, Mass. 02738, to construct a single-family dwelling, work shed, and ground-mounted solar array located on Assessor's Map 132A, lots 1078A and 1027B, 80 Mayflower Ridge Drive, Wareham, Mass.
We have a request to continue this hearing until December 1st. Is there anybody in the audience that was here for this project? So the request was for continued until 12/1.
And who was the request made by?
Ron Braveman.
The engineer.
The engineer.
Okay.
I went down there and couldn't get past the gate. It is gated, right?
We can't drive there.
Can't
but
drive,
you
you
can
can
walk
walk
there.
it.
You can drive there, it's just
You
really
have to go
rough.
through the gate.
Well,
Yeah,
okay.
the gate-
I could
gate-
walk it, is that what
You
you're
could.
saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we had done.
It was too muddy.
Oh.
Okay.
So a
we
motion to
have a mo-
continue the hearing to December 1st.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Continued. All right. Now we have a series of continued public hearings, and for the public, I'd like to know that we've been asked to continue several of them. The TEC Associates for the Railroad Corridor, the David Andre at 69 Great Neck Road, Scott and Laura Christofoli at 9 Lydia's Island Road. We've been asked to continue the Wareham MA3 LLC, the 91-101 Faring Hill Road project, and the Wareham PV1, the 0 Route 25 project. Anybody here for those? They will be continued and not discussed tonight. So we'll go continued on with, we have a request for continued hearing for Tech Associates, the Railroad Corridor, until December 1st.
Motion to continue to December 1st.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, it's continued until December 1st. The next continued public hearing is William and Jean Whalen at 11 Gitchigumi Road. Anybody here representing them?
Yes, Madam Chairman. Bob Rogers with GAF Engineering.
Thank you, Bob. Mr. Pichette will read to the project.
Do you already have that, or do you need it?
Hmm?
Do you have a copy?
Yeah, is this new? Okay, here. Ron. Okay.
Okay, so this project site is at 11 Gitchigumi Road, and this application is coming in response to a violation that occurred at this site, which included the construction of a concrete block wall along the top of a coastal bank with no permits from the commission. So there was a concrete block wall with a stone base layer approximately 43 feet in length that was installed along the top of the coastal bank. An enforcement order was issued, and the owner was asked to submit a notice of intent to address the restoration of that site. We've had a couple of back and forth discussions about this, and at the last meeting, it was requested that someone show up to give us a sense of where things are at with respect to the application that was submitted a little while back. So again, my recommendation for this is that the wall would need to be removed and that the area would have to be restored and stabilized in a manner that would be permittable in that particular location. So I believe we initially did have a plan that was going to address that. Then there was some continuances, so I'll let the engineer speak to where things are at this point in time.
Thank you, Dave. We've been reintroduced into the project just recently, I think last week. The Whalens did consult with an attorney and some other people. They decided that the best way would be to just continue to use us with the work that we had already done. And so Gene is agreeable to remove the wall and to basically stabilize it for the winter. We're going to come up with a new plan that just shows the calls for the wall to be removed, and probably some section of choir rolls or something to put down, and then loam and seed and grow bushes. We haven't developed that yet. We'll be able to get that done and submitted in time for the next meeting. But so we're going to call for the wall to be removed, and it's just going to be plantings, so we just want to make sure that we're good with what the commission wants to see, just for the top of the coastal bank, just on the crest of the slope, and then the rest would be lawn. We just want to, in general, call for native plantings, shrubs. But, she's just looking to get through this in a way that's acceptable to the commission that doesn't, so that the wall can come out this winter. There'd be some temporary winter stabilization, like I say, in the form of either staked down landscape fabric, and then the permanent solution would be, it would be nice to have a section or a width of coir envelope for the plantings, just to prevent any erosion, and then she would have her lawn, and she would get the permission to reconstruct her deck and her stairs.
You mean the stairs down to the beach?
No, not at all, nope.
Those are staying, they're not being touched.
Yeah, they didn't have anything to do with that, and so they're not responsible to remove them, but they're not going to be improved upon.
Okay. All right, so the plan we have here,
It was just the original one that
Yep.
we submitted.
so,
So I'm asking for a continuance to December 1st so that we can,
come back with a planting plan.
yes, removal of the wall and stabilization and plantings.
Okay. Any questions before, yes,
I have a question.
yes.
Would it be better to leave that wall where it is until April 1st or so? Only from a standpoint, we've had some pretty heavy rainfalls, and it may be difficult to hold the loam back in place, and to have to do it once and then do it again gets expensive and,
Yeah,
tiresome.
They'd rather,
Get it done.
yeah, get the,
Okay. Just
you
thought
could call
I'd
it the
mention.
expensive part of the, get that removal done, and we'd stabilize it
Okay.
to the commission's satisfaction.
Thank you.
Michael? Any questions?
We were talking about replantings. Where would that approximately occur on this map?
Well, so there was a little,
Sorry,
what do
we
we
can
think?
see that on December 1st, he's coming back with a full plan showing them.
All right. Do we, obviously, be away from the wall, obviously.
I think that,
So,
yeah, it'd be the erosion control right along the property line and the removal of the wall, and it's all gonna be plantings, whether it's lawn or shrubs or flowers, but, the coir blanket is really only needed at the crest of the slope at the top of the
Okay.
all right.
bank.
Ron?
My only question is gonna be is that we're gonna stick with you this time, right? And we're gonna finish the project with you, I'm
Yeah.
hoping?
Yes, yep.
Okay, just
Yep.
because I know it's been a back and forth, and I just want to make sure that we're not gonna continue that back and forth.
Yeah,
and
there's no ill
just
will
come to a
whatsoever.
resolution to
Yeah.
this. Okay.
Denise?
I know there was some concern or talk at one point about a chain link fence that was falling down the hill from this area also.
Well, now that you bring that up, I'm not aware of any of that on this property, but she did mention to me that she would like to have a short, like a 2-foot tall fence to keep the dog in the yard. So,
That's up top.
On
but
the,
that was-
on the upside of where the wall is now?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know there was something about a chain link fence that was sliding down the hill on the right-hand side also. Over and through here.
Maybe not her, maybe some old
We can
stuff
just take
that
a
was
look at that.
from
When
previous.
we have a chance.
Yeah,
And see
yeah.
if that's actually part of this project, or if it's on another piece of property. But I know there was a chain link fence going down the
Well,
hill.
if it's down the slope, I don't think it's her property.
Well, if it came from her property, where's the
Who
fence falling
knows?
from? I don't know. If you can just take a look at it and let us know what your
Yep.
findings are, please.
Is there
Okay.
anybody here that wants to speak to this project? December 1st, is that good enough?
Yes.
Have a motion to continue the hearing to December 1st?
Second.
I have a motion to continue until December 1st. I have and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? We'll see ya.
Thank you.
It's like jumping
You
beans
always hit yourself with a...
with a little clip.
The next hearing we have is L LSC Hydra LLC, 364448 North Carver Road. Wow. Please come forward and identify yourself for the project, one at a time.
Bob Rogers with GAF Engineering.
Dan Watson with LSC Hydra.
Jeff Mesa with LSE Hydra.
Brad Holmes with VCR.
Okay. I have one. It hasn't been updated, right? This is, I still have one.
Correct. There's no revised plans yet.
All right, Mr. Burchett will read to the project.
Okay, so again, the site is 36, 44, and 48 North Carver Road. And the project involves the construction of a commercial solar array within riverfront area, within bordering vegetated wetland, and within the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland and inland bank. A 990 kilowatt solar array is proposed within riverfront area of the Weewianick River and within the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland as well. There's 3 separate areas proposed on the property for solar arrays, and these would occupy approximately 9.7 acres. All 3 of the areas are within riverfront area. At the last meeting, it was discussed that a more complete alternatives analysis was needed. We did receive a more complete alternatives analysis just this afternoon, but I did not have time to adequately review that. I did look at it briefly and did have some problems with some of what I was seeing with that relative to the project purpose that was stated. But I would like to go through that in more detail, as again, it was just received today, this afternoon. I'd also asked for the square footage calculations to show what the applicant was representing as degraded riverfront area versus not. I have not seen that as of yet. As of the last meeting also, I had not been to the site for the site visit. After being there last week, I did find there to be a couple of violations at the site, which involved the unpermitted clearing of land within the riverfront area and in the buffer zone to wetland. One of the proposed array areas is within one of these illegally cleared areas. So in my opinion, these violations need to be addressed. I have also not seen comments from the town engineer on this project as of yet. We did receive a DEP file number with comments that information needs to be submitted about how the project meets the requirements of redevelopment of previously developed riverfront area. So at this stage, I would recommend the hearing be continued to review the recently submitted information. Another piece of information that was submitted was a restoration plan for the altered riverfront area. So again, that was just received today as well. So again, a continuance to review the new information, to get the additional information on the riverfront area calculations, to address violations, and also to get comments from the town engineer on this project.
Comment? Gentlemen, I'd like
So,
to start.
yeah, I'll start. So I guess Charlie Rowley did produce a review letter
And
for,
just, he's not our town engineer, he's a consultant that is helping various departments. There is no town engineer, but when we're talking about Mr. Rowley,
okay,
can we refer to him as a consultant?
sure, yeah, I'm sorry.
Same thing.
I
He's not-
call him the town engineer.
well, he's not on the salary as such. Okay, thank you.
Thankfully.
But, I don't know, you're listed as, I think maybe you might have missed the email or something, but anyway, so that letter is available if you don't
When was
have it.
that dated?
November 6th,
Okay, yeah, I haven't seen that one.
so, You know, he usually blasts everybody in his email, but.
So something came out of Charlie and we haven't seen it yet? From Charlie Rowley?
Okay. Well, be that as it may, that amongst the other thing, the new information that we.
Denise, can you send it to the rest of us? I think you may have had it from planning. Okay, thank you.
So we've started making revisions to the plan, and so what I have here is the overview plan, and what I've just highlighted in green is the areas of restoration, which would be the areas that line up with Brad Holmes' memo for the restoration. And so what he has is some recommended cleanup and remediation for both that area to the south and the one to the north. You know, I thought Lodestar did a pretty good job with their riverfront alternatives analysis, to the extent of going through all of the reasons why we're proposing to, you know, put panels in the riverfront areas. Obviously, you know, you need time to review that. Yeah, and so I guess, yeah, I don't know. You guys want to take it over? There's really no changes in Charlie's letter in terms of the drainage or the grading. You know, we have some screening that we're showing for the planning board. It really does come down to, does the commission agree that the improvements in ground cover throughout this property and the remediation of the areas in the 50-foot no-touch that have been cut, you know, does that, you know, do you see that as positive and, you know, in order to move this project forward?
I think we got some reading to do.
So,
Anybody else? Comments on this? We're going to continue. Dave, can you send us the DEP? I did not get it, because I'd like to see their comments on this project. Thank you.
Dave, just a question for you. Maybe it can be pointed out. Where exactly was the clearing that shouldn't have happened on this project?
Well, if you look at the northernmost area where solar panels are proposed, a couple of years ago, that whole piece of property was just wooded land, and now it's basically clear-cut land. And there was never any approval or consultation with the commission to do that clearing work, and it's literally right up to the edge of the wetland and the river.
Yes, come forward, identify yourself. I think you want to comment on that.
My name is Linda Linton. I'm the owner of the property.
You'll have to sit so we can hear you.
In the winter of 2020, we harvested 3 acres of high pine from a timber lot we last harvested in 1984 and for cordwood since. The area wasn't stumped and has progressed to early successional forest land as a farm practice. Our wood lot is enrolled in Chapter 61A Agriculture since the program began as cordwood and timber. It's not enrolled in the 61 forest land because the wood lots were small. We regularly cut cordwood and it was part of our farm and not a standalone forest, so that's why I didn't have a forest management plan. Why no cutting plan? On July 22nd, 2019, I met with the district forester, Joe Perry, and a retired forester, Austin Mason, and requested a wildlife stewardship plan for a patch cut. Patch cuts, usually 2 acres or a hectare, 2.5 acres, to develop pollinator habitat between my land and my neighbors, who also wanted pollinator habitat. There were no available district foresters, and there was as much as a 24-month waiting list for any forest plan in Plymouth County because all of the very few contract foresters were busy with required updates for the forest land enrolled in Chapter 61. That's their mandated priority, and they have to have updated plans. There were simply no available foresters, and that was before the COVID shutdown. It's even longer now. On March 16th, 2020, we had a preliminary on-site walk with Dave Plachette, Lodestar representatives, and Brian Wick, Director of the Cape Cod Cranberry Growers Association. We walked through that woodlot with Dave, and I told him at the time we intended to harvest the white pine for the money it would provide. Subsequently, on April 2nd, on 2020, I called to check in with him and left a message on the phone at the Conservation Commission. The office was closed due to COVID. I checked with the agricultural exemption, which is state law for both Wetland Protection Act and the Riverfront Act. And frankly, honestly, it never occurred to me to ask permission to harvest pine because it was a patch cut with no stumping, and it was a regular practice on the farm. We harvested the white pine and sold it to Gurney Sawmill to pay bills. We have cut the exact same stand before and sold logs to Curtis Dow. The loggers took the trees down and knocked the limb piles in as is their practice. The stumps were not removed, and I was pleased with the diversity of the early successional colonization of many great pollinator plants. I never considered it to be a clear cut, and I know Dave did. They did knock down the branches, and they do when they skid out logs. So, as for the removal around the oaks surrounding the blueberry patch, in 2016, we were decimated by winter moth and eliminated the buds buds for February and March. In 2017, we were decimated by a new introduced species, the spotted-winged Drosophila. I subscribed to an IPM program for both species run by the Barnstable Cooperative Extension for 3 seasons. While pressure from the winter moth abated, gypsy moth hit with a vengeance. Both gypsy moth and winter moth take refuge in oak. In effort to salvage the blueberry patch, we removed the surrounding oak and divided the patch into sections so we could rotate them and spray for Drosophila. In addition, the Bombo cyclone of 2018, we had a lot of downed and broken trees, which, by the way, I have pictures with me. This storm that we just had, I have also many broken and high broken trees. I mean, I didn't break them. They've been broken high up. They've fallen on our pump houses, and we had some of the trees had fallen on the pump houses before. We had to rebuild that pump house. We debated converting that to cranberries or house lots, and we decided to put up solar panels. That was in the blueberry patch. So that's why the trees have been cut. And I did not file. I realized that I needed to for a town bylaw for cutting. I wasn't aware of it. But I do know that, Dave, I did notify you that I intended to harvest that pine in March, and the woodcutters came in April. I made an attempt, at least, to notify your office, and I was unaware that I was in violation.
Linda, is it possible we can get a copy of that document and we can put it, so we can also understand it better by reading it? Yes.
Sure.
So
I'll
whether or
leave it
not
with
you have it
I
electronically.
have it on my computer, but I'll just leave you this one if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So Dave, will you take that and scan it and send it to us? Thank you.
I can email them if that's easy. I don't know.
We can follow up with the town consultant letter and that Linda's report as well. We'll just send everything,
Yes,
electronically.
because I'd like to have as much documentation as I can in this folder to understand the project.
Sure.
Okay.
That's everything. I have to
Anybody
say.
else? I'm going to ask for there's any questions. Are either of you, Brad, Jack, you want to talk? Anything you want to say? Nope.
Sure,
Go ahead, Brad.
I wanted to hear from the commission, and what we prepared and submitted was a kind of a draft restoration theme. We haven't nailed down areas and put together a plant list until we finalize with the commission what those restoration areas are going to be, but it gives the commission a theme of what the restoration activities would be. We kind of defined it as 2 parts. One would be that northeast portion that we just described, and then there's the southeast portion near the blueberry field. We also propose restoration activities in there, which I think most of that area would fall within 100 feet of land in agricultural use. So what we've done is documented some restoration activities that we can improve on with the commission once we kind of nail down the limits of what we're going to be restoring. But we wanted to get that over to you so you had it to look it over, so you could see where we're going with restoration activities. And if you thought something different was needed, then we can include it. But it's more of a working document at this point.
Okay.
So just,
Questions?
sorry, one more. So that, the clearing we're talking about is up in the northern part. How much of the area where panels would be, so that whole area was cleared where those panels would be? So if those trees were never harvested, we wouldn't be talking about a third section of panels right now?
No, we still may be. It's just that they're trying to claim that it's previously cleared land,
Okay.
which, you know, it is now, but it wasn't previously.
I can show you, I have historic photos when we harvested the last time, and we've cut cordwood out of there always.
Okay.
So it's not.
I just wanted to have an understanding of, what we're talking about here, so that,
This is canal.
yep.
It's not river. I mean, this is river, and,
No, I just wanted to have an understanding of exactly how much clearing we're talking about, so when I'm doing my review and looking at things, I have a full understanding of what it was.
I don't think all of that is cleared, though. I think those where the panels are going, but I don't know, is the tree still there?
I think it's about 3.5, just under 4 acres.
I thought it was
Okay.
2.5.
Yeah.
I don't think it's all clear. but-
Denise?
You do realize that with the number of solar projects and stuff that are coming down for us, that we need to be consistent
Yes,
with
I
the
do. I
riverfront and with the
understand.
bogs.
Yes.
I guess one of my questions is, did you harvest from the bog this year?
Yes.
And did you harvest from the blueberry patch this year?
Beach grass.
Just beach grass from the blueberry area?
We didn't pick
No
blueberries.
blueberries, okay. And at this time, that's all my questions.
Elisa?
Nothing.
Michael?
We obviously gonna have to do some more reading, as Dave said earlier. I do have one question, though, because I saw on, I think, at least 2, maybe 3 of these proposed panels, there's a line in there that says proposed underground electric. Now, is that from you or from a different company?
That's from us.
That's from us, okay. Then, any concern about what they may have on the soils, or even water, for that matter, going into the Wewianick River, by any chance, or not?
From the underground electric lines?
Yeah,
Yeah.
either from the construction, or even any long-term impacts, any concern there, or not?
No, I mean, this is standard. There's already some existing underground electric lines out there that used to go to the pump house. I think they no longer use electric out there, so it's not really a big change in terms of the electric lines that we'll be running, and those are pretty well sealed and protected, obviously, for us, for our purpose, so we don't really have a concern with flooding with those, and the disturbance is pretty minimal. We have a detail, I don't know, at probably less than 3 feet typically for those underground circuits.
All right, thank you.
Did you have anything to add, Mr. Bichette?
I don't have anything further to add at this point.
Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to comment on this project?
I see a hand, Sandy.
Please come up and identify yourself, and gentlemen, could someone give up their chair for her, please?
Thank you. Excuse me.
Hi, I'm Patricia Wirtz.
Excuse me, please. Could we just have everybody else, if you're not with this young lady? Thank you.
I thought I just gained camaraderie. I'm Patricia Wirtz. I'm known as Tricia. I live in Briarwood Beach and basically border once part of the Wewianick as it comes out to meet Buzzards Bay. Our town is going through lots of different solar farm sites, and I have heard multiple times, not necessarily in this room because they haven't necessarily gotten in front of this commission always, but I keep hearing, well, we're going to overstep the 100-foot setback, we're going to go into the river, we're going to cut more back into the river. And let me tell you, that river is getting more and more upset. I've been on it for many, many years. This year, we got to swim all of 20 days in it. Some of it was pollution, some of it was extra rain, et cetera. And I have a big concern about making exceptions to disturb that river site more and more. I don't think it's healthy for the river or for the people who live around and on it. I also have a question, is this, and I forget, I should know, is this a raised solar site or is it ground level?
No, it's a low profile.
Okay.
About 3.5 feet in the front of the panels, maybe 8 or 9 feet in the back.
And are you using wooden poles, or are you using, what are you using for base?
It's the typical, like you would see at Tow Road, or it's the typical steel
It's
posts.
steel. Okay, thank you, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else to comment on this project? We're going to continue. We're looking for 3 documents, the Rowley Stormwater Report, the DEP response, and a copy of Linda's letter. Is that correct? Are we missing anything else?
And the riverfront area calculations that they're presenting relative to degraded versus non-degraded riverfront area.
Okay, so we're going to continue. Do you think December 1st is still good?
Yes, Madam Chair.
So motion to continue to December 1st.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. We're continued until December 1st.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next continued hearing is, Deborah, Kos-
Koshevis.
Kosevich?
When is the meeting?
Sorry, I don't think I got that one right. Please come forward and identify yourself for the record. Here.
Good evening, Brad Bertolo, JC Engineering.
Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
New plan?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, this is the one with the storm drains going to the river. Okay.
Don't touch my plan.
Mr. Bichette?
This project site is at 76 Pinehurst Drive, and this project involves the reconstruction of a seawall and the construction of a deck in the buffer zone to a coastal bank. At the site, there was an existing seawall that's deteriorated. Part of it has already collapsed at this site, and the proposal is to replace that wall with a vinyl sheet pile wall in the same location as the existing wall. Also proposed is a deck on the water side of the house between the house and the seawall area. There's no deck currently there, and so we had asked some questions about showing what was there relative to what's being proposed now. It was also asked that the wall be set back and located in the location of the original wall versus set out in front of the wall, and I see that's been included on the revised plan. It does also look like on the revised plan they've added stairs on the water side of the seawall. So that's something we would have to discuss. I would prefer that be recessed back, but I'd like to hear details about how that's going to be done. We did get a DEP file number for this project, and comments from Division of Marine Fisheries, who had no negative comments. I have no problem with the seawall reconstruction. It was an existing wall and definitely needs to be replaced, and the concrete chunks that are on the beach to be removed. So the only question I have is relative to the deck size, and I'd ask the engineer to comment on that.
Thank you. 2 weeks ago, we were here to discuss a minor change that I've now presented. To clarify or correct Dave's comments, the proposed sheet pile is still proposed seaward of the concrete. We're trying to avoid cost of removing the existing concrete. The sheet piles themselves are approximately 10 inches, I call them thick. So it's along some of the wall, the sheet pile will be adjacent to the concrete, and the remaining 50% would be about 10 inches out from the face. We're just trying to avoid the amount of excavation needed to remove concrete walls. We also have some concerns over the southern retaining wall, the one that's, if you're facing the water towards the right-hand side. That concrete wall appears to be a continuous pour with the neighboring concrete wall of the abutters. And saw cutting that may have some stability issues. So that's the reason why we would like to keep that wall in that location. So that
The plan looked to show that sort of setback. So I was envisioning that you had made that adjustment, but if that adjustment hasn't been made, then I would not recommend that be approved. A good chunk of this wall no longer exists, so they could put that wall back with no problem at all. I understand Brad's comment about trying to address the other wall, but if they build it out further, they're just going to eat up another chunk of beach area, and there's sort of a narrow area between the beach and the marsh in some sections as it is. So that's my comment relative to that, and I'll let Brad finish his
Yep.
comment.
So this plan was prepared to show what client had wanted after getting some original quotes from the original installation or the original plan. So there are two main concerns that I'm looking for guidance from this commission on what they feel would be permittable. That would be the set of steps to be set forward of the seawall or the sheet piles, as opposed to building a bulkhead area with corners, and that's going to save some cost in installation, and allowing the sheet pile in the location that's proposed. Before we move forward, I mean, we'd like to get your thoughts on those two, and if I need to make a change, then I'll get back to the client to come up with another option that may be more permittable. We did discuss possibly shortening the sheet pile wall and maintaining the use of the existing concrete wall that's to the southern side, because that's in fairly good shape, although I think that doesn't have a proper footing, or the footing's starting to undermine. So we'll have to look at an option of trying to protect that footing, and then in that case, shortening the seawall, the sheet pile wall, and building it in the original footprint. In that case, would be removing the smaller section that's to the north. Again, we're a little worried that some of the material may collapse, and I may have to dig out behind the concrete wall, which we're trying to avoid major excavation in the close proximity to the salt marsh that's just, forward of the revetment or the sheet piles. So I was hoping to get some guidance from this commission and see what would be permittable and what changes would be requested by this commission.
Hey, Denise, questions?
Well, when I looked at this area, the wall is basically gone. I mean, it's just completely crumbled and destroyed. I don't see what the issue would be to be pulling it back to where Mr. Pichette had requested that it be. And also, we were talking about asking that they make their brick walkway into something that's permeable versus just the brick that's shown here. Those are just my two concerns
All right.
at this point.
Ron?
I mean, I share the same concerns as Dave, with encroaching more on the shore with the wall, especially with a lot of the wall already being gone. I think the little bit of extra, I get the financial impacts, but at the same time, you know, the impacts to the environment are, you know, have to be equally looked at. So that would be my biggest concern is, you know, bringing that wall back to where the existing wall is now. I know it's a little more expensive and probably not, you know, what wants to be done, but I think from an environmental standpoint, I think that's definitely important. And then as far as the stairs are concerned, not quite sure how I feel on that yet. I think we're gonna have some more time to think about that, as, you know, this is obviously gonna be continued. So those are my two biggest concerns, is the stairs and the wall being currently where it's proposed as to where, you know, I think it should be.
Thank you. Michael?
I pretty much echo the same concerns they already have, addressed rather. As far as the wall and the stairs and the brick walkway being something a little bit more permeable, I guess. Thank you.
Alyssa?
Besides that sort of thing, I happen to feel like the stairs should be inside the wall. I don't think that they should be an extension of the wall out into the waterway, into the river. The other question I had is, how much patio gain are you looking at if you do this wall sort of freehand? Because, you know, we've had people that we've had them take their patios out that they build that are into the river.
Are we talking the deck?
We're talking the deck.
The
that's
deck,
it,
okay.
Yeah.
So I was aware of the issue with the size, and I believe I submitted the old assessors field cards from a while ago. So we're matching the size footprint-wise, 140 square feet. It's just not sticking out as far as original. The assessor's card showed it as 10 by 14, and that is highlighted on the plan. It's a dashed line.
Yeah.
And obviously the purple line is the proposed 7.5. I kept that size just to kind of work with the opening that was maintained along the, when they put the sidewall and the outside vinyl siding, they left areas anticipating to do work. And I tried to match that area, so that only allowed 7.5 feet out to match the size.
Mm-hmm. So then my other question is, this neighbor who has an adjoining piece of wall, does he want to keep it? Or is he willing to let it go? Or does he just want it left the way it is?
If the commission is gearing towards leaving the proposed sheet pile wall in the same footprint, we're going to look at a new alternative that either doesn't touch that concrete wall, or we'll look at some other type of shoring protection that may be more cost beneficial.
Okay.
There's the option of shortening the length and leaving that concrete for now,
Leave it alone.
or come up with something that might be more cheaper to install for the full width of the property.
Thank you.
Okay, questions? The deck, looking at the plan, you're looking at adding 2 sonic tubes over what was originally there underneath by the concrete pad, correct? I can see the 2 further, I'll try again. I can see 2 sonic tubes being added beyond the 3 that had been there at one time.
I don't know if there was a sonotube there before, but there was definitely a concrete pad.
It was, so
It is,
I consider the concrete pad already disturbed areas. So
Yep.
by removing it and putting something in its place, to me, does not violate our 30-foot no work zone, because it definitely had been altered. So what you're looking at, 2 new, further wider ones to support the
It's a con-
18-foot
yeah,
deck.
Considerably smaller footprint with 5 sonotubes as opposed to the original
Yes.
concrete pad.
And it's further back from the water. Okay, now the dock, the deck. On the west side, you have an existing concrete wall to remain, and you have you have the vinyl sheet going in front of it, right? A timber guide, a timber guard coming in front of the sheet pile. What's that?
Say, typically it's bolted onto the face of it. We're going to work with the manufacturer to determine if additional hold downs or tie downs are necessary for this. And there would be, those tie downs would be drilled through that timber wheel to help stabilize the wall from tipping over. Originally, we were keeping some of the original concrete wall that does provide some support. So if walls are being removed, we're losing that additional support.
But if you keep the concrete wall, then the vinyl sheet pile, and then this timber guard, how far out from the existing concrete wall will this whole unit be?
The wall itself has a little slant to it, so the bottom of the sheet pile would be set as close to the bottom of the current wall. So with a 10-inch deep sheet pile, my guess is maybe 12 inches, half a foot, 18 inches. I think they can get within a few inches of that concrete wall. The timber whale is up high. It'd be like 4.5 feet out of the ground.
So it won't be touching the ground at all?
no,
It's just
it's-
up in the air
it's
as a
up-
stabilizer?
Yeah, it's towards the top of the wall. It's about 6 inches.
Now, the vinyl sheet pile has to go the whole length, or, I'm just thinking, if you were to leave the existing concrete wall on the east and the west and only put this vinyl pile on in between, will that make the wall usable? Does it have to be the whole length from
That
one
was-
concrete pad to another concrete wall that exists?
That was an option I was stated earlier, that would keep the
The one
easterly side wall.
Which is attached to a neighbor.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the westerly side is independent and starting to fail. It's starting to tip. So that would be removed.
Okay, so even though this says existing concrete wall to remain,
Based on the comments from majority of the commission,
more than likely that will go?
that will
And
will
you-
likely go, and I'll bring the sheet pile closer to the house and in the
Okay.
same footprint.
Therefore, the sheet pile by removing that concrete wall, the whole sheet pile can come closer to the house for the whole length until you hit the concrete shared with a neighbor?
I probably will not extend the sheet pile wall
Into the marshland?
any further east than the current concrete wall that's that side.
And the concrete steps that have collapsed will have to be removed in order to make that happen? Because they're, seem to be further out into the marshland than the existing westerly concrete wall.
Yeah, any portion of that original concrete steps would have to be removed.
Okay, so you can bring that sheet pile in closer to the upland by removing that westerly concrete wall? Yes?
Yes, they could be,
Yeah.
yes.
And I'm not comfortable with a set of stairs going out into the marshland. I see nothing here that indicates some type of, never mind. You showed it. I would be more comfortable if it was brought into the land and ended where the sheet pile is. Vinyl sheet. I did get a nap today. I don't know why, but I'm not comfortable with this set of stairs going out into the marsh,
Correct.
Yep, all right.
but that's,
One option I was thinking about before tonight was possibly a newly poured concrete stairwell, and then sheet pile the rest of the way. Because majority of the concrete that's in the stairwell would have to be removed to rebuild the stairwell. And with the shape that would basically almost a U-shaped structure, feel we could put that in there and have confidence that it'd be structurally sound. And then to avoid the major digging needed for a footing the whole length that's closest to the salt marsh, and that situation would use the sheet piles.
okay. At the last meeting, I commented on the two roof drains going out into the water. I don't see anything here indicating dry wells to accommodate the roof runoff. Will that be in the next plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Sandy, on the picture, are there trees and stuff in the back of this also that we need to be concerned about? Can't-
Well, they're not what I consider them low-lying, nothing substantial.
Okay, I couldn't remember what they look like.
If they're an inch, some of them are just brush.
Some of it's saplings on the lower
Yeah,
level.
right
There is-
behind the stone wall is
Yes,
small ones.
yeah, just,
Thank you.
So more than likely, the ones that are more upland would not need to be removed at all.
no, the ones that I show on plan that's between the two stone walls, I
Yep,
think
Those are the ones that are,
anticipated to remain. I
Yep.
don't think there are any limbs on those that would be in the way.
okay.
Thank you.
So is there anybody in the audience who'd like to comment on this project? I'm seeing none. Do you think December 1st would give you time?
Yes.
Motion to continue the hearing to December 1st?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained.
Thank you.
See you on December 1st. Thank you.
Almost.
Next one is David Andre, 69 Great Neck Road. They've asked for a continuance until 12/1.
Motion to continue to 12/1?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, or continued until... Wrong folder. Continued until 12/1. Wait a minute. Okay, it's continued. Next one is Mark Conley at Shell Lane. Anybody here for that project? Please come forward and identify yourself.
Good evening, Mark Dibbs, civil engineer with Cape and Islands Engineering. We also have Anthony Zucco, who's an applicant, Mark Connolly, an applicant, and Brad Holmes from ECR.
Thank you. Mr. Bichette will read to the project.
Do you have any copies of the revised?
Yeah, I got a couple.
We have a revised plan.
Yes.
Is this the revised one, or is this the old one? Is it the old one?
The old one.
Thank you.
Okay, Dave will read to the project.
This is, so should we look at it?
So this project site is lot 1032B off Shell Lane, and this project involves construction of a pier, ramp and float system, and originally proposed a reconstruction of a stone seawall within land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, salt marsh, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. 158-foot pier, ramp, and float system is proposed out into Shell Point Bay. The proposed pier system would require the installation of 20 10-inch pilings. Pilings would be installed from a floating barge. In looking at the plan, it appeared that the float did not have 2 feet of water at low tide at both ends of the float. One end's a little deeper than the other. Also originally proposed was to reconstruct a low stone seawall at the site. I think based on some concerns about impacts to salt marsh, this part of the project has been removed. So that's no longer on the plan, and that's part of the revision that you see on the revised plan. The project site is also in a velocity flood zone. Another part of the project that's proposed is a path from the road to the pier. It is proposed to create a path 8 feet in width up to the 30-foot no activity zone, and then 4 feet wide through the no activity zone to the location of the pier. There has been some tree cutting already done on the site prior to any approvals. There was also an eelgrass study that was done indicating no eelgrass in the project area. And also when the revised plan was sent in part of the correspondence, it was stated that the pier is going to be a shared pier now between 2 owners, and thereby potentially reducing the construction of a second pier. But there's really no option for a second pier at this site because it's relatively a small area. So I don't think there's any significant benefit or difference whether this is shared by 2 property owners or 1, because there's only going to be 1 pier there anyway. We did get comments from the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries. They did have concerns for the impacts to shellfish and shellfish habitat, and state that the project will result in the permanent loss of shellfish habitat. The harbor master commented on the project and stated the project would not impede navigation, and also stated that the area is used by recreational and commercial shell fishermen. A DEP file number has been received with comments concerning alterations to the salt marsh, but since that part of the project has been removed, I don't think that's an issue anymore. But based on the comments received from the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries, I would have to recommend in a similar way that we have on other recent pier projects in this area, that due to permanent impacts to shellfish habitat, recreational value of the area, that this project shouldn't be approved. So that's my comments on it, and again, it's based on these comments from the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries for that particular area.
Would you like to comment, please?
I'd
like to take it.
Yes, Mark Tibbs, civil engineer for the project. So as Dave described, it is a pier project. The site contains land under ocean, land containing shellfish, salt marsh, coastal bank, and your local 30-foot no disturb buffer zone. And the lot that this project is situated on is a small lot which will be used solely for this pier, for the walkway. I do have an exhibit if you'd like to see that the location of the 2 lots that are sharing this pier. I can provide that if you're interested in it, but it has no, the location of those lots doesn't have a particular bearing on the
Yes, we
approval.
approved those two locations several meetings ago, so we are familiar with the location. Thank you.
Okay. And so we did receive the Division of Marine Fisheries letter. One thing, a component of the design, or two components, is we've elevated the walkway 6 feet for the entire length, as that is a comment, and we're also proposing through-flow decking that allows the light through the pier itself. And we would be amenable to float stops on this project to maintain the 30 inches. The water depth does vary from about 2.2 feet, which is 26 inches, to the 30 inches at the end. So we would be amenable to provide those float stops. And we also have Brad Holmes here, who did the eelgrass and shellfish study. I could have him describe what he found at the site, just to inform the commission. And then I think ultimately we'd like to respond to David's concern of the shellfish, see if there's some sort of seeding mitigation that might be acceptable for this lot. We did find only a couple species of shellfish for this particular area, and the location next to the neighboring pier, actually to have those two next to each other, kind of limits the overall area. It's not out in the open in a spot that might be more suitable for shellfishing. So I'd like to just have Brad Holmes just describe the shellfish that were found in the study, and then we can ask the commission if they have any further concerns.
Sure, thank you, Mark. Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with ECR. We did perform a shellfish and eelgrass survey within the vicinity of the proposed dock. As Dave mentioned before, we didn't find any eelgrass in or near the project area. And we did perform a typical shellfish survey within the footprint of the proposed pier. We did find low numbers of soft shell clams in the closer to mean low water, the shallower end of the water body, and we found moderate numbers of quahogs within moving from about 1.5 or so feet of water seaward. These weren't large or abundant numbers as far as shellfish surveys go, but we did find the species of two shellfish species that Mark mentioned, soft shell clams and quahogs. As far as a permanent loss of shellfish habitat, that's something we can provide further information on. I don't believe that would be the only potential permanent loss I would have to say would be the piles. The remaining area would be available for shellfishing, and the float would be a seasonal ramp and float system, so that would be removed. So I don't know if I'd consider there to be a permanent loss, but we can provide some more detail to the commission on that.
Thank you. Anything else before I ask the questions of the board? Nope. Okay, Denise.
The integrity of this commission relies on us being consistent in our application of our bylaws. You are aware that there are 4 other docks already in this area, and a 5th dock has been grandfathered in to this area. And I feel that this project is detrimental to the recreational value of this area. I don't think you need one more dock out in this small area. Dave, what were you saying about the eelgrass? I missed what your comment was on it.
There is no eelgrass.
There is no eelgrass, okay. I still have reservations about the project and the number of docks that are in this area.
Could I give this map of the existing docks to the commission?
I've been there, I've seen the whole thing. If you want me to look at your picture, I will, but there are going to be 5 docks already in this area. this isn't not just a private area for these people who live back in there. This is a recreational area for all of Wareham, and I just think it's going to be detrimental to the area.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ron?
I mean, I kind of, piggyback off of Denise, but the biggest thing for me is, we've seen so many of these projects come before us recently. We've gotten many comments back from the various entities that do studies and things like that. And the biggest concern for me is, I take those comments that come back from anyone that makes the comments. We take them very seriously and don't just overlook what we could do to potentially change the loss of some and mitigate here and mitigate there. But the goal of our commission is to be consistent in any decision that we make. And just the comments alone coming back saying that any loss is too much. We've already lost enough. And any further loss is too much, I believe, for this town. And for the sake of the consistency, those are my concerns, that we can't deny one week and approve one the other week, that has the same circumstances.
Would you mind me asking a question? Why does there have to be any loss? Why can't that area just be harvested and the shellfish move?
Because the pilings itself are gonna create loss. You can't get that back. Once those pilings are in, that space that is being habitated is lost. So there's gonna be some type of loss, whether it's minimal or a lot. And, our goal is to take everything that we get and advise to it, but also be consistent in, our decisions of the past. Because if I was to say, yeah, well, let's approve this one, but last week we didn't approve a project that's in the same general vicinity for the same reasons, then we wouldn't be doing our job as a commission to be consistent and opening ourselves up to issues that we shouldn't have in this town.
So would it be fair to say that in the future that people shouldn't even bother to permit this because it's a blanket policy and you're just going to get turned down? I mean, we've put all of our efforts forward with all the right channels and doing the right thing with the right people, so.
Well, I think it depends on the locations and the comments that are received. If we receive applications in other parts of town and we get different comments that state that they don't believe there's going to be significant impacts based on that particular project, then that project might get approved. We're just going based on the comments that we've received for this project and others right in that same zone, which have all been consistent.
I would just look at this area, this big horseshoe here, and I would estimate it at probably 3,000 to 4,000 feet of area with 4 docks. But you go around any one of the corners heading out to Buzzards Bay, and there's one every house has one. So
yeah, and you're right. There are some areas where there are quite a few, and some of them have been there for many years. We have other areas in town where there are a number of docks, and the habitat in those areas are pretty much destroyed. And so those are the sorts of things we're trying to avoid in the areas that still are very good, viable shellfish habitat. So that's part of what this review is all about.
Right.
So,
and in this particular area, there's this drainage ditch that pours all of the runoff from that whole area into that area. And we feel that that's probably why there isn't an abundance of shellfish in that area, as the reports say.
well, I think in terms of the numbers of actual shellfish, that can be misleading at times, because if you have a good shellfish area, obviously people are going to be shellfishing there a lot. So you may not always have large numbers of shellfish if an area has been recently shellfished pretty heavily, especially through the summer months. So what you're looking at is the shellfish survey is helpful, but you're also looking at the habitat itself. And is the habitat good habitat? And from the comments we're getting from the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries, they're saying that it is.
But they didn't do the
That's my
study.
question. Is this a form letter? Where did they go see this? Where did this come from? This came the day before the last meeting.
Right. I mean, when the application is submitted to them, they do their review. How their review is done, I don't personally know, because I don't work for the Division of Marine Fisheries, so I can't necessarily respond directly to that question. You'd have to ask them that.
But I mean, you're referencing this,
That's right, I am
So-
referencing it, because this is.
so that's what I'm saying, so where is that coming from? If you don't really know if this is really true, it's just they're telling you this.
I didn't say it wasn't true. I'm saying I don't know how they came to their conclusions.
Okay.
You asked me, how did they come to their conclusions? And I don't know that. All I'm saying is their comments are what they are, and they're the authority in this particular issue. That's why these projects have to go before them to be reviewed. That's part of the requirement of the application process.
It's interesting, we're not the only town with this kind of a problem. People are complaining about or want to limit docks. On Nantucket now, there were so many docks that you cannot build, you cannot repair your dock unless it was there before 1976. So if you have a dock and it gets ruined by a storm, you cannot even repair it on Nantucket. And it's kind of it's a big problem, I think. The loss of shellfish is really, there are lots of areas of beach where the soft shell clams are no longer. Let's just see. I think, the flow through decking is a great idea. And I think that you would have to have float stops, but that too, they're not guaranteed in any way. Sometimes things are, people are going to be running up on the beach. They're going to be running on the sand there. Kids are with their kayaks, and that's what you hope they do.
That is what our hopes were for our family to
Of course it is.
enjoy the
Of course.
waterfront.
And, that's why you bought there.
It
But
is.
that's why everybody buys theirs, because it is so beautiful. Think of the O'Briens. Now, they would never let anybody go there at all on their land.
Okay. Anything else? If not, Michael, your questions?
No, so far I agree with everything that's been stated so far, based on the geographical location and the number of docks already there. I basically, so far, agree with everything that's been stated. Thank you.
So what I'm hearing is, based on the recommendation from the Mass Marine Fisheries, they would recommend that this not be permitted. But is there anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this project? Yes, please come forward and identify yourself and,
Shaughnessy,
excuse
Madam
me, can
Chair.
someone give up their chair for him, please?
And I can stand up, it's okay.
No, they can't hear you.
I'm the attorney with Mark and Tony. I've read the letter that you're referring to tonight, and I don't see where it says exactly this shouldn't be built. It says there's issues and it makes recommendations, and we've heard the comments of the commission members tonight. I think at this point, what I would ask for is a continuance to the commission's next hearing, so we have some time to go back, do a little more homework, address some of the comments that were raised tonight, and dig into this letter a little bit more. I've heard Dave's letter, his report, and I don't think it prejudices this commission's decision at all. It just gives us the opportunity to get a little more homework done and get some more information to you folks.
Okay, thank you. I would support a continuation to allow you to review the documents we're looking at and then come back to us in December 1st. Is that all right? So I can ask the commission if they're willing to continue the hearing.
I would be comfortable with that, but I may need some additional time
Yeah.
if the commission's.
Thanksgiving is coming.
Yeah, and
We can continue until December 1st. If you can't make it, we will ask for a continuance
enough.
until the,
Yeah, our second meeting in
15th.
December is the 15th.
Okay.
is that, but it's up to
Yeah.
this board is whether or not they're willing to continue. I'll ask.
Yes.
Okay, then make a motion, please.
Move that we continue this case till the next meeting.
December 1st.
December 1st.
I have a motion for continuing.
Second?
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Abstained? So it's 3-2 to continue. So we'll see you, if not on the 1st, then the 15th.
thank you very much for
Thank
your
you.
time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Dave, is it possible to get a copy of your written comments?
Yes, yeah, I can email that to you. Yeah.
Okay, the next continued hearing, Frank Tramatozzi. Anybody here for this particular project?
Yes, good evening. Joseph Hannon with Atlantic Coast Engineering.
Thank you, Joseph. Mr. Bichette, when he gets his paperwork straightened out, we'll read to the project. I have a plan from September 20. Is that the, has it been modified?
I think we are gonna get a revised plan
Oh.
here.
Yes, full-size set color, requested in scale, and then 4 additional copies.
I'll share these two down here, and I'll take one. Thank you. Joseph, while you're here, can you take a look at the picture and tell me what that is?
The other one.
It looks like someplace and put his dinghies that are never been permitted, so I was just wondering if you were aware of that.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
I would certainly advise you to take it off. I didn't see that either.
Well, it was when I took my pictures, must have been early, mid-October. I was quite surprised to find that there, and think,
Yeah, I'll advise them that that's
Okay, thank you.
Is that
While
the
you were up
dinghy
here, I
dock?
wanted to show you the
Yeah, I
picture.
appreciate that.
Okay.
Is this the dinghy dock?
I'm not sure if it's dinghy, I'm not sure if it's dinghy dock, this is the one.
This one, it's really over.
Okay, it's right
And
next to,
now they want to go
so
down.
it goes, this goes right now to the other one, this is an onset, like onset's over here, yeah,
All right, you're up.
I know which one we're talking about.
You may have a seat,
Okay, great. I'll probably go up to the,
Yeah.
do the introduction, then I can talk about the drawings.
because they would like to have you being able to be heard on television, so.
Sure, no problem. Good evening.
Mr. Pichette will read, and then you have your turn.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the project site is at 31 and 33 Prospect Street in Onset. And the project involves the construction of an extension onto an existing pier within land under the ocean, land containing shellfish, and within a coastal flood zone. It is proposed to construct a 60-foot extension onto the existing structure, which is currently 144 feet in length from the existing seawall. The extension would make this a 204-foot total length structure. The existing pier is 6.5 feet wide. Originally, the proposed extension was also that wide. I had requested that that be reduced to meet the current standards that we have. And so I believe part of the revised plan is showing that the extension is only a 4-foot width as required under our bylaw. There was a float put out at the site to show where the location or the end of the extension would be. The extension would require the installation of 10 12-inch diameter pilings, and relocating the floats would require another 5 12-inch pilings. These would be installed from a floating barge. I was just curious about the reasoning for the extension, because it seems like it's a suitable structure as it is, but I'll wait to hear your comments on that. We did receive comments from the harbor master, who stated that the project would not be a hazard to navigation, and stated that there weren't significant shellfish resources in that particular area. We did receive a DEP file number for this project, and so I'd just like to hear what the engineer has to say regarding the extension, the reasoning for it.
Sure. Good evening. Jed Hanna with Atlantic Coast Engineering, a professional engineer in Massachusetts. Dave did a great job explaining the proposed scope of the work. We originally intended to file this about a year ago, and then Dave indicated that we needed to do an eelgrass survey, which has a certain window, and so we weren't able to file. So Brad Holmes, who's here this evening, he conducted the eelgrass survey in July, and that came back negative. There was no eelgrass in the area. We've been corresponding with Dave back and forth on some of the bylaw rules, and we amended the drawings to reflect the bylaw width, so we revised the drawings for that. We also put out a float to represent where the 60-foot extension would be located, as you folks require it. And really the driver on why the owners want to extend the pier length is largely due to the amount of sediment buildup that's taken place over the years. They're not able to really get out at low tide.
Okay.
So the proposed extension of 60 feet would provide an additional 2 feet of water depth at the various tides. So that's really the driver on why they want to do this. Dave already talked through the number of piles, and really it's essentially shifting the T-section float out and then putting in pile-supported 60-foot extension. At this point, I'll open it up to any questions you might have, and we can talk through those.
Thank you. Alyssa?
Okay, so I have a question, and that is, Point Independence is going to be doing some dredging in this area, and I'm wondering how that's going to impact your people and their dock. Is it going to make things better without even going out farther? That's probably one of the problems with Shellfish Cove, that cove, and it's also a problem here, is that the sediment builds up. I mean, you can almost walk across from Shell Point across to Lydia's Island at low tide. And I'm wondering how yours is going to affect this dredging. Maybe have they spoken to them at Point Independence Yacht Club? Maybe they don't need to spend the money to get it docked.
I frankly
Well, the
don't know
Point
the answer.
Independence Yacht Club is, you have the Onset Bay Marina between this location and the other.
But it's all going to drift down that way, David. It's not like it's not like they're going to go in there and they're going to say, we're going to take this strip of sand. Sand, as you well have
Yeah,
told
the
us,
sand
doesn't
will
work.
certainly drift.
Certainly
I think
drift.
the Point Independence dredging project is relatively limited to just around their particular B dock, so they're taking.
That's sort of what we hope.
Well, that's what's been permitted, so they really aren't permitted to do anything beyond that. And it's quite a distance away, so I would think if there's gonna be an impact, it would be more relevant to the Onset Bay Marina, which is in close proximity to where this is.
I think it'll go. The other question I have is right along the shoreline there, between the existing dock and the dock, the big dock, the Green Street dock, and the shoreline from Prospect Street. Is that sand? Is that concrete? What is that? I can't remember.
Here to here?
From here
Or-
to here.
Oh, this area again.
From the Green Street dock, and then you walk along the beach, I guess, to get to the Prospect Street. So my question is, what is there? Is that concrete, a concrete wall? Is that sand that people go to? Because that was one of the issues. That people go to swim there? What is it?
We didn't really,
I mean,
investigate any
all
of the.
these people back here
Sure.
have got to go to the beach somewhere.
That
Sure.
particular area is pretty much underwater at high tide for the most part, yeah. And
low
then at low
tide?
tide, you do have a sandy beach there to a certain width. And then there is a seawall that runs along the back edge, but
The backside is a seawall, and
Right.
then there's sand in front of it.
That's right.
And that's where people usually play.
Well,
Yeah.
it is private.
It's private only to what level?
Yeah, but they have to walk, I mean, I don't know how they're
I'm
going to.
just saying,
yeah.
Sandy, is that when you dredge and when you add another dock and you add other people, there's going to be a shifting of the sand
Always will.
underwater. And I wonder if that's an issue. I mean, was this the dinghy dock that was approved how many years ago? I think so.
That wasn't something that was approved as just a dinghy dock, no. That's a structure that's been there for quite a number of years before we were dealing with piers. And so the recreational beach is where you're pointing right now.
Yeah.
But there's really, people don't really go to the beach there because there's really not a lot of dry beach, if you will, even at low tide. So,
Look at this area right there was the original question, okay?
Okay.
Now, what Dave's addressing right now is this beach right here is like the beach where people will go. And I guess
And
right
that's private
now,
property up in through
this
here?
is
Well,
private
it's
property here.
Land, but it's always private.
And I guess, I'm not sure, I can't read Dave's mind, but I think he was about to address this area maybe?
Okay.
Which
Now-
I was about to ask, but maybe I don't have to now.
Other than putting in pylons, is the owner planning to disturb anything under the existing dock and floats, other than pylons to extend it?
No, that is the only
So
item,
no
really.
dredging, no clearing up, no, okay. Just, anything else, Alyssa?
No.
Michael?
I guess my concern here is with just, again, another proposal for a dock here, and this just seems to be a lot, it just seems to be, we'd just be adding more boats to another dock, which seems to be very large, right next to it. I just have my reservations about adding yet another dock next to another large dock next to it. And obviously, there's a Point Independence one even further down than that. That's just my concern, I'm just gonna add, that's all.
Ron?
Yeah, so I'm just looking at this picture here on the cover sheet here. That first dock, that's one that's gonna be extended? This one here, right?
The one that says 31
Yeah.
Prospect, yeah, that's the one that's being.
So how will that affect the pier? I'm looking at it here from the picture to the left, all those boats that are there, how's that gonna affect those boats? How much distance is there? It's hard to get the scale from here, but how much distance is there gonna be for those other boats to be able to get out once you extend that dock?
Right, and that was one of the things we were concerned at when we first started looking at this, and there's approximately 80 clear feet for navigability. So there's plenty of room for,
So it's
boats
not,
to go
it's
both
not like
ways.
it's not like it's a 30 or 40-foot neck, it's got a pretty wide, okay. Because just looking at it, when I'm looking at the amount of the dock that's gonna be extended, it almost looks like it's gonna choke off all those other boats from getting out. So that was my, obviously my biggest concern in looking at that quickly is, what that actual distance was. You're saying 80 feet, I mean, I think that's,
Ron?
enough for boats to navigate in and out of that area.
Ron?
Yeah.
With that same question, how big are the boats on this new dock to be? I mean, that makes a big
On
difference.
which dock?
The new one,
The one that's being extended?
the one that
You're talking
they
about, yeah.
want to
Yeah,
extend.
do you, any idea, I mean, right now, he's got what did I see,
Yeah.
probably maybe no more than a 28 or 30 on there now?
Yeah, it was I thought it was 25, and there's no plan to change.
And it's in a console, so it's not a yacht.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it's a 50-foot yacht.
However, it doesn't mean that they can't go
No,
there.
but
Or,
do you think he's it's hard to believe that boat will run out of water at low tide, which is why he wants to extend this. What's the draft of the boat? It's an outboard motor, right?
It's an outboard motor, yeah.
So he lowers that outboard, and he says he doesn't have good water clearance once he lowers that output at low tide?
Correct. And they've
Another
owned,
12 inches below the hull?
so they've owned there for approximately 30 years.
Mhm.
And he's saying that, the sediment buildup's gotten pretty significant to the point where, it's impacting their ability to get in and out, which is why they're proposing to do this.
If I may just add a little bit, I think what the project does is brings a existing structure more into compliance with what the commission would look for docks and floats, in the sense that there isn't an adequate water depth now, and adding the length to the existing pier provides either at or near what you would be looking for. So it actually is an improvement to the resource area being land under the ocean, because now we don't have the, prop dredging impacts, and the existing float system that's existing is just gonna be pushed out. So it's not an expansion where you're, creating a new pier system. It's just extending so we can have deeper water to more or less try to bring into compliance with what you guys would be looking for.
Denise, oh, sorry, Ron, anything else?
And we got comments back from,
Well, I haven't seen DEP, nor have I seen the harbor master comments.
that's what I'm,
Well, the harbor master did comment. He did state that he did not feel that this would create a hazard for navigation.
Can you share, do you have it? Did
I
he
thought I had sent that, but there's been so many different things, I may
haven't
have
seen
failed
that.
to send that to you.
No.
Do you have the
That I haven't
DEP?
seen.
My other it was gonna be my other question. Did Mass Division of Marine Fisheries get the revised plan, and did you get comments back on that yet?
They did get the plans. I haven't seen any comments back.
Okay, so we would have to obviously see those comments before we could make a final decision.
Okay, Denise, anything?
this is a business that's on this pier that's next to you. I'm piggybacking off of what you were looking at.
Oh, yeah,
Is that a
that's Green
business here?
Harbor.
It's
That's
Onset Bay Marina.
yeah,
That's the old Onset Bay Marina.
yeah.
And the size boats going in and out of there don't have any sediment issues? Do we have any sediment? I mean, we don't know anything about that, right? And this pier extension is not going to infringe on those piers at all?
Not according
He's
to the
saying,
harbor
he's saying,
master.
yeah,
Not
the harbor
according to
master's
the
saying.
harbor master.
Yeah,
Okay, because if you look at it in the picture, it looks like it's...
it looks really tight,
It
right?
looks like it's gonna...
But that's an 80-foot,
Okay.
so if you look at here, it's saying every inch is 30 feet, so.
As long as they don't
Looks
put
like-
a big boat at the end of their docks,
Yeah?
a wide one.
Business is trying to get a big boat out of their dock.
Is it Green Harbor, Green Haven? I always called it Point Independence.
No,
This is
Onset
the
Bay
Onset
Marina.
Bay
Onset Bay
Marina.
Marine, right?
The docks closest to the water have smaller boats. The docks further away have the bigger boats.
Bigger boats.
Whether it's the 40 or 50 footer Viking they got there, I think that Viking's probably the biggest boat there, isn't it? You probably haven't,
Not sure.
yeah, there's about a 50 footer there, okay.
And then any of the dredging that's getting done down below isn't going to help this or mitigate this problem at all?
The dredging we're doing at Point Independence Yacht Club is that small area that's up against their wooden pylons. I mean, it's their bulkhead, so it's probably no more than the size of this circular table here.
And the beach that's in between these two areas here, that's private property or?
I don't
up until
know.
the water's edge or?
I'm sure the neighbors use it.
High tide? I'm sure they do. All right, well, it's just things I need to think about.
I mean, we're gonna have to wait for comments to come back anyway before we would make a decision on this,
Right.
application
So
anyway.
Anything else? Because I've got a question on page
Go ahead, Sandy.
C3. It says, here's the existing float, and it doesn't tell me how many feet of water between the float and the land.
Existing or proposed?
No, existing. I'm trying to, so if I take a look at this 30-foot existing floating pier, how much water is underneath it at mean low tide? It doesn't say.
At mean low tide,
2.
I mean, I could scale it, but it's about 2 feet.
Then if I put out for another 60 feet, what's the difference between my floating pier and mean low tide?
It's 2.5, additional 2.5 feet of depth.
And we'll have stops on everything?
Yeah.
So he's really gaining 6 inches?
No, 2.5.
No, 2.5 feet.
Net
I kn-
increase.
Oh,
Is that-
net increase.
So it'll be four,
if
it'll be 4.5
feet-
feet.
Yes,
4 feet versus 2 feet?
yes, 4.5 feet versus 2 feet.
Okay, so we are waiting for DEP and sharing the harbor master comment. Is there anybody here from the marina?
I was just going to ask you that, Sandy. What does the marina think about all of this? Have
They know it was here. They know it was coming.
They were
They were notified as abutters, so
Not only that, but I went there and I went on their pier, with their permission to go on the pier to take pictures of this existing dock. So I spoke to somebody in the office that there was a hearing coming up for this, so they were well aware that it was coming. Is there anybody in the audience that has a comment on, would like to comment on the pier extension? I see no one. We're going to continue. Do you think we'll have the documents we're looking for by December 1st?
It's another 2 weeks for them to,
Well, they got
Come back
new
with
plans,
comments?
and you're asking DEP to respond to the new plans, right?
Well, they should have those by now. Those have already been sent to them, so it's just a matter of them getting their comments to us.
so should we continue to the 1st, and if we don't have comments, then we can just,
Yeah.
obviously we'll know when the comments, hopefully the comments come in, not the day of, but I think if they come in prior to, then we could hold the continuation on the 1st. If not, then the next meeting would be the 15th. So I would make a motion to continue to December 1st, waiting on the comments from Division of Marine Fisheries, and if it doesn't come in, then we'll have to further continue until we can get them.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Continued until December 1st.
Thank you. Dave, do you happen to know, who's reviewing the file? It's with CIRO, right? Southeast Regional Office. Is it Dave?
Well, no, it would be at the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries office out of New Bedford.
I'm familiar with DMF, but for DEP, do you know, is it Greg DeCesar, or do you know who's reviewing the?
I don't know the specific person that would be doing it. Could be several different people, but we did get a DEP number on that already.
Yeah, I saw that,
Yeah, so we're really waiting for the Mass Division of Marine Fisheries comments is what we're waiting for.
Okay. I'll reach back out to them. I have a pretty
Yeah.
good relationship with them. Thank you.
The published agenda has a Scott Gray on it, but that was denied at our last meeting in November 3rd, so it's to be removed in case someone is working off of an old agenda. That should have been removed. The next one is Krista Foley, who's asked for an extension until December 15th. Anybody here for this project?
Motion to continue to December 15th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. It's continued until the 15th. Here you go, Dave, some more paperwork. The next one we have is George Barrett.
No.
It's on here. Wasn't that continued for a little later date?
Yeah, that's not supposed to be on there. That has been changed. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Next one I have is Wareham, MA.
So Wareham MA 3 at Faring Hill Road. They've asked for an extension until December 15th.
Motion to continue to December 15th.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained until 12:15. Okay, wait a minute. The next hearing we have is Wareham PV1. They've asked for a continuance until December 1st.
Motion to continue to December 1st.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, is continued until December 1st. Wow, December 1st.
Woohoo! It's almost Christmas.
Okay, now. We have an enforcement order from Dockside LLC. Is there somebody here representing, would like to comment on us, please?
Dock house, not dockside.
What did I say?
You said dockside, dock house.
This is dock house.
You said
That's not
dockside.
what I said.
You said dockside.
Thank you.
I know we've been talking about a lot of piers and docks lately, so I know.
Oh, anybody here for this
The
project?
representative is here. He was sitting here for most of the meeting, and he just.
I think he's out on the
hall.
phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he
Well,
is here.
Should we go down to certification of compliances?
Would you like me to go get him?
Oh, let him
Thank you.
finish his phone call. We can see when he comes back in, we'll ask him to, because we got people waiting for these other projects too.
So yeah, we want to go to the certification of compliance and then we'll jump back to that, or he can wait until we're done.
Oh, he's coming in now.
Oh, wait.
I think.
You're up.
Come on down.
Beat me to it there, Ron.
What?
You beat me to it. I almost made that joke, but nah.
Just talking to the engineer out there. Working on an engineer.
Okay, so this site is at 28 Winship Ave, and this is a site where there were some pilings installed at this location with no approvals from the commission, and so an enforcement order was issued so that this violation could be addressed. I had spoken with the owner previously, and they were in the process of getting an engineer to try to address the violation. And there's been some delays in that, and at the last meeting, the commission wanted to have a representative come here to update the commission and speak to the issue at this point, which is why Mr. Clemmy is here to address that. So let's hear where things stand.
Okay.
I just went outside to get the name of another engineer, to get the name of that engineer. We've been working with a couple of people, we've been talking to people, we're gonna have to, apparently we're gonna have to apply after the fact for an NOI for the pilings to go in. We've gone back and forth on how to do that, who to do it, and the process, and there's been some delays. One of the engineers is on his way to Florida shortly, so he won't be around to help us do it. So we're trying to find another engineer to help us put in the NOI that's required.
Can I ask, how come you put them in without approval?
That's a good question.
You've been before us many times on projects down there. It
We,
just,
in 2008, we got a full 80-foot dock pier with dock certified. We know that the process is to put a dock in. Apparently, someone did not believe that they needed to have it for just 2 pylons, and I apologize.
So Dave, is
We
this,
hired a person to do it. We didn't put them in ourselves. So
it'd be pretty impressive.
What's that?
It'd be pretty impressive if you put them in yourself. Dave, is this something, now, I see 2 pictures there, Sandy. Is that in the process complete? What are the 2 different pictures? Can you explain
what I
that?
have here is, I did go down and took a long-distance photo of, I think these are the 2 pylons that are sitting outside of the existing float. Those are the 2 that were added?
Those are the 2 pylons, yep, those are the 2 pylons that we were speaking of, that we will have to come back and we'll have to do the process, yes.
So what was the purpose of adding the 2 pilings? What was your intentions to do to extend that landing? Or what was the intent behind the pilings?
So we have a dock next door at 18 Winship that has a horseshoe. This one's a reverse horseshoe. On the horseshoe, what happens is in the summertime, southwest winds, in the wintertime, northwest winds, it's basically so that what happened was the boat, if the boat doesn't have the pylons on the outside to take the pressure off of it, when the tide's coming in, all it's doing, because we're right there in the wake zone, we're only 100 yards away, and I know it's no wake zone, but basically the boat crashes against the dock and it literally beats up the dock.
Mm-hmm.
So the only purpose of those 2 pylons is to take a rope on the stern and in the bow and keep the boat so it's not
and then it's not disturbing the dock, it's
So
not disturbing.
you'd end up with a Springer, trying to keep the dock safe.
Yes,
the
the idea
boat.
is to keep the boat from just slamming into the dock all day or all night or during a storm or whatever. It's just much safer for the boat, it's much safer for the dock, and the dock doesn't break away. That's the purpose of the 2 pylons. There's no purpose to extend anything, it's just keep the boat off the
Keep
dock.
the boat from, now, Dave, is this, obviously, there's multiple factors and, comments that come from the different entities, but just to say, if everything was to come back and all the comments would, is this something that we would approve to be done? If everything came back the way it's supposed, that we would want it to come back from comment standpoint, would we approve something like this?
It's something that could be approved. It just, as you said, depends on the comments and the feedback and the characteristics of the site. So
Yeah.
whether it would be approved or not is not something I could say
Without the comments, okay. So it's one of those that it's kind of up in the air with all of the different,
until the notice of intent is submitted and we see, all the information that has to be provided, we wouldn't know the answer to that question.
Dave, was this the dock that had to have moorings moved around
No.
it in order to do it? That's further up, closer
This is
to
an
the-
existing structure.
Right.
So this is not the one you're referring to. I think you're talking to one of the ones that was on Lydia's Island Road.
No, I'm not. Long time ago, where Kathleen, what was Kathleen's last name? Used to look down, right along this area. All I'm just saying is that this is, it's not an addition, but I don't know if we would have approved it or not.
Right, we don't know whether we would have approved it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We may, it depends on the information that's submitted to us as to.
No, not me.
I think the moorings that she's speaking of are the ones out in front of 18's dock. In 2008, when we did that dock, I think we had to move a couple of those moorings. That was done, are you speaking of Kathleen that lives on Winship?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the 18 dock.
Yeah.
There's no moorings, all the moorings are out in front of this dock. That's why we never put a boat out in the front of it for the most part.
Yeah.
It's always on the
So you're
sides.
trying to find an engineer that has the time to give you a notice of intent on this one?
Apparently, there's a lot of docks going in. There's a lot of work going on right now, so we're trying to find.
that's, yes, there is.
Yes, and we're trying to work with the gentleman that put them in so that we can, maybe he has a recommendation on somebody he works with.
Dan, when did you put these in?
Excuse me?
When did you install these pylons?
My name is Bill.
I'm sorry, Bill.
My brother is Dan.
Okay.
Please
I'm
don't
sorry,
please don't confuse us.
Sorry, Mr. Clemmy. Is that
covers
better?
that covers everybody. No, it's fine.
Okay.
You can call me Bill.
This was done back in the time frame of about May.
I was going to say early summer?
Yeah, because the enforcement.
Yes, when the boats went in.
The enforcement order was
Boats went
issued
in,
on May
and a boat was
25th.
moved, a boat was put there, and that's when it started to, we noticed that we had to replace boards and rubbers and everything on that dock. Just, we just replaced some parts because it was getting beaten up before, so we didn't want to get beaten up more, so that's when it was decided to put in the poles. So, yeah, it was last summer, so.
So,
Well, we will be submitting the required NOI as soon as we can get the plan, the application, and everything that's needed.
so was this, you said someone else did this, I'm assuming this was a contractor that did this work for you? Okay. Because, I mean, the thing I'll introduce now, and obviously we'll talk about it when we get closer, but, there are fines associated with doing work prior to conservation approval. And if I'm looking at our documents, right, the fines would be $300 to the homeowner and $300 to the contractor because it is it's in the water. So I think that's the highest fine that we carry. So I just want to make that known to be a thought because it will, come up at the end, even, once we get the notice of intent, there will be a fine to go on both sides.
I understand. Thank you.
Bill?
Yes,
I'm sorry, you got the names wrong.
that's okay.
Okay.
Just remember, I'm the good-looking one.
You all look like your father. The same, yes, he does the same clearing of his hair. Yes. Okay. Anything else?
So what I would say is that there was already a time frame established for where we wanted to see an application submitted. This was through a discussion with Dan, not you directly. So that obviously didn't come together, but what I'm saying is we should establish some time frame so there's an expectation of when something would be submitted, so that it's not left open-ended. So I would just suggest that.
What was the original time frame that was discussed? Obviously not with Bill,
Yeah,
but
that was
with
that
Dan, what was that discussion?
Back at that time, I think there was a 45-day window, which we
And
asked
that
for
was-
something to be submitted,
And that was when?
well, it's already come and gone, let's put it that way.
Now, are we talking May of 2020 or May of 2021?
2021.
Okay, so this was, so even June, say it was sometime in July, you're still talking August, middle of September at the latest? Yeah, I mean, I know that there's for lack of better terms, there's not a lack of work out there for these engineers, but I do think that we need to find, I'm sure that, money's money, and, they'll take it on now, when they can actually get to it. But I would say that, my opinion is that, within the next meeting or two, be able to have some information from an engineer that's willing to take on the work, and then find out what their timeline might be, but to actually have a contractor defined, and then when, obviously, we get that everybody's busy, but figure out at least a time frame of what they might say.
Just the point that I find a June 2nd agenda, which says you have a 45 window.
So June, so you're talking about July, middle of August, and we're going into December.
Could I ask this, nobody's actually been to a meeting that I know of, but do you have Dave, was there an email or something that was sent after that meeting? Can you look? Because I went back through all of my emails, and Dan, we went back through all of our emails. Most of the conversations been conversations with Dave, so that's why I've got a new folder here. I'm putting together everything that I have on this, so we can proceed accordingly. To your point about finding a contractor, I have no problem if you give us, this is in the middle of November. We can certainly try to have a contract by, I think, your December 15th meeting. We can try to have a contractor, and we can let Dave.
You mean an engineer?
An engineer,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, an engineer, contract an engineer, and let Dave know that, and then we can schedule something, and then we can give you a schedule accordingly. I think that's fair. I'm literally asking people as they're leaving here, if they could take on the project, so. I think that we can work to that, if that's okay with you.
So we're looking at mid-February? Did I hit, I was sneezing.
I said mid-December to give you, to locate a engineer.
Yeah, so December 15th, so that's
Right.
not next meeting, but the meeting after that, so that's essentially 30
month
days.
to find an
Yeah.
engineer.
I mean, I think that's more than sufficient amount of time to find an engineer that would be willing to do the work. Now, obviously, at that point, they would come with you and then have a discussion of when they think they would be able to have something before us.
Yes. And we won't use the polls during this process.
Well, won't your peers be pulled?
Not this year. We're not pulling them this year.
Not pulling them this year?
No.
Okay.
The boats are all pulled. Well, the boats are almost all pulled.
I'm sorry, my chair keeps shrinking.
That's okay.
I feel like my chin is, okay, so thank you very much, Bill, for coming in.
Not a problem. We'll keep in contact with Dave, and if we have any updates, we'll be sure to share them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a nice evening.
All right. Certification of compliances.
Diane Gustafson.
Finally, as they say. So, hi. Please identify yourselves.
Hi, my name's Robert Taylor. I'm the owner of 15 Kennedy Street. This is my wife, Diane Gustafson.
Thank you.
So the project site is 15 Kennedy Street, and this project involved the reconstruction of a house at this location in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland. So they, what is that? Sounds like a spring noise. Anyway, they have requested a certificate of compliance, and there was some questions at the last meeting about an issue of a section of wetland that was shown on the original site plan, having been now kept as lawn. And so we had continued the discussion so members could go to the site and take a look at it. The owners do have some information from the project from before the project was started, showing that the area was previously mowed, but it was, for the purpose of the project, flagged as a wetland, even though it had been mowed by the prior owner. There was a report done by a consultant who went out and reviewed the wetland boundary. This was on behalf of the town. This was somebody that we wanted to review this site because we didn't necessarily agree with the original plan that was submitted. So he's the one that did the report, which resulted in the wetland line on the approved site plan. And even on his report, he did note that the area was mowed lawn, even though his findings were that it was wetland that was being used as mowed lawn. So anyway, in the order of conditions, it stated that that area was considered wetlands. And so now they're before us, and they've continued to mow that area, even though the order of conditions indicated that they probably shouldn't be doing that, but they were under the impression that they could, based on the fact that it had been done before, and based on the indication from the consultant that stated that it was mowed lawn. So that's where things stand, and I know some commission members went out there to take a look at it. The project is completed, everything is stabilized, so it's just a matter of how the commission wants to deal with the certificate of compliance.
Any comments?
David covered most of it. I mean, I have the pictures showing the lawn being mowed prior to any work being done out there, which you've already seen, and he's covered it.
Yep.
There is language in the Wetlands Act somewhere that says that you can continue to mow land that has been historically mowed prior to it. It is in there somewhere. And the discussion I had out on the site 16 years ago about this, what, like David said, that his report from Peter Fletcher disagreed with the report from our engineer out there, and I felt that the wetland area was greatly overstated compared to what our engineer felt it was. And rather than appeal it and fight it, I was just gonna go along with it. And he said that we could continue to historically mow it. We could continue to mow it because it was historically mowed. So that was the impression I had. I wasn't trying to violate any order of conditions. We've done everything to the letter, what you told us. I mean, the way it's written, it says that it's supposed to stay in its natural state. I was assuming that you didn't want us to fill it, you didn't want us to change it, but the mowing part of it, I thought we were okay with as a discussion we had out there. I just I don't want a problem with ticks out there, that's my big thing.
Yep.
Once you start leaving that, it's almost the whole entire backyard that's.
Most certainly.
Yeah.
I did go out and visit it after a rainstorm, and it was damp. I know people went out after this last big rainstorm, and it was a puddle, so.
Oh, you saw a puddle there? I've never seen a puddle there. In 15 years, I haven't seen a puddle there.
Denise?
It was wet.
What, was there a puddle there, though? I could say,
My shoes were wet when I came out of your backyard.
okay,
Yeah.
fair enough, but there was an actual puddle there.
Was there standing water?
No.
Yeah, it was all wet.
Not a lot, I mean, the grass was there.
The
and
grass was wet from
was
the
four-
rain, that's
4
it.
inches, and the water wasn't above the grass.
No,
Yeah, it
no.
wasn't
It
it wasn't a puddle there. It wasn't
Wasn't a huge puddle. It was extremely wet. Let's
Right.
put it that way.
right after the rainstorm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always wet.
I understand that.
Yeah, it's always wet.
You're
when it
allowed
rains.
to mow wetland? Dave?
Well, again, if there was a situation where this had been going on for years before they even owned it,
Yeah.
then it's just an existing alteration is what it boils down to, you know?
Okay.
And there are other
do have
places
pictures.
around town that you notice, wow, that's been cut. At mean high tide, it's flooded, but it always has been cut and maintained. So it is not uncommon to have historically mowed areas to be continued to be mowed. And honestly, there's no backyard for this house. It's
I
all
know,
identified as
all
wet.
identified as wetland
And
back there.
I honestly have no problem issuing a certification of compliance. There's been no alteration to the land. They
No.
didn't try to fill it in. And there's a ditch that goes right by them that contributes to the flow of water onto this slight depression in the backyard. My opinion, I have no problem approving a
How long have you
certification.
been in this house?
2003, we bought it. And
2003.
again, we never altered anything,
No,
just the
I
lawn.
was
just
I was
the
surprised it
lawn.
hadn't been attempted to be filled in to get rid of it, but no, it was
No.
it's a depression in your backyard.
Actually, I got the picture when we loomed the yard to do it, and you can see we only loomed around the house itself. We never went near that wetland area.
No, we never
Yep.
touched it.
So, I mean, we tried to follow your order and conditions, and
You've
I
got nice
appreciate your
little-
comments.
This nice little moss, is what you
Yeah.
got, is that, yeah. Ron? Denise, did you have anything else?
No,
Ron?
I mean, you know, obviously, I'm against any type of work that's done in the wetland, but I mean, if we're talking about something that's historically been done, and, you know, there's language in, you know, in the Wetlands Act that says that it can continue to be done, I'm not opposed to, you know, approving it and signing off on the order of conditions, as long as it's something that is, you know, historically been okay.
Michael?
I have no questions, thank you.
Alyssa?
I think that it is what it is.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
Thank you.
I move that we accept this as stated, this as
That we-
compliant.
That we issue the certification of compliance?
That's exactly right.
Yes, that's the motion.
Does it have to include that they're allowed to continue to mow?
They are allowed to continue to mow.
But does it need to be stated in the?
I think it probably should be. What do you think, Dave?
I think there'll be a condition, a continuing condition that says they can't fill it, okay? There's
Oh,
gonna be,
that's
there's gonna
fine.
be a condition.
We don't want to touch it, you
There's
know?
gonna be a condition
We
that
don't.
says they can't,
Further alter?
further alter it, yes, that's
And-
what I
And
meant
that
to
standing
say.
condition stays with the
Yeah.
property regardless of the owner.
Exactly.
Right.
And did I see a for sale sign on the property?
Yes.
Yeah, there is.
Okay, so whoever buys it,
Right.
they'll have the standard order of conditions that says, hey, you can't alter it.
Right, absolutely.
So I have the motion,
Second.
and I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? We'll sign it for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where are
Thank
you
you,
moving
everybody. Thank you.
You can sell your house.
We don't know if it'll sell or not. We may still be using it for a while, we'll see. That's an odd house. A lot of
Yes.
stairs in there, if you saw how high it was. It's awful hard to sell a $500,000 house to an older couple that has to deal with all them stairs.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can I ask, are there two garage doors on the bottom layer out to the backyard?
That's the,
I was gonna say.
they're kind
that-
of breakaway doors with we were gonna put sliders there, but the building department said absolutely not. They wanted garage doors there because they didn't want it. I'm like,
To be used as livable space.
just follow what they said.
You know? And I said, well, nobody's going to use this as livable
was just-
space.
That's
I thought
why
you could
it
open the
makes no
doors if there
sense.
was a
Where was
flood,
the
you know?
driveway for the
Either
garage
way.
doors, and it just didn't,
No, it's ridiculous, but
Yeah.
okay, then
you're
explain.
not wrong about that.
Everybody asks the same question.
Purposes of the flood zone, right?
Right, it's the
Right,
breakaway
right,
wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
wouldn't let us put
sliders
slides
would do
there.
the same thing. They break away, so the water could go in and out,
Okay,
you know?
there you go. So
It does look crazy though, doesn't it?
I guess by tomorrow, pick it up?
Maybe not tomorrow. I'll call and let you know when it's
Okay,
ready.
no, that's okay. All right, thank
Another
you.
long evening for you because you're at the end of the agenda.
I've had a long last 2 weeks, as David knows. I've had an extreme long 2 weeks.
Oh, well,
Good
thank
evening.
you, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you again.
Good night.
I appreciate it.
Next,
The next is Lou and Robin Andriotti at 11 Oak Hill Road, and this project involved creating a parking area in the buffer zone to a coastal bank. This project has been completed according to the order of conditions, so I would recommend the issuance of the certificate of compliance for this project.
can I get a so moved?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
And a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, done.
1. Abstain.
Thank you. You must be here for something. Oh, you've been it's soon, it's soon. Okay, next one, please.
The next one is David Pillsbury, 28 Shangri-La Boulevard, and this project was for a septic system upgrade, and in doing this project, there were some things that were done there that were not part of the order of conditions of the approved plan. We had required some restoration work to be done to bring the plan back into compliance. They have since done that, so I would recommend the issuance of the certificate of compliance now for this project.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
And I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, done. The next
Sandy-
one.
Sandy, on that, excuse me, on the certificate of compliance for Lou and Robin Andriotti, I would say no. I wanted a no vote.
You don't think they've completed their certification? You don't think it's been built to what it was supposed to do?
I just don't know that it's working the way they want to. Maybe it's just the extra rain that's been around. I don't know.
Are we talking about the right site? Are you know which one we're talking about? This one is at 11 Oak Hill.
Yeah.
And all this was to do was to create a parking space, and it's all
At the edge.
stabilized. There's really no problems with it.
Is this one that they put asphalt on?
No,
All
there's
right,
no
then
asphalt.
I have
No,
the
this
wrong,
is-
I have the wrong one.
You're
then.
thinking of the
Yeah,
one.
I am.
You're thinking of the one closer to the boat ramp. That's the
You're
one I'm
right,
thinking
that's
of.
on
No,
Oak
this
Hill,
is
yeah.
not that
Okay.
one.
Then I'm fine.
And that's Oak Street.
Oh, Oak Hill, all right, I got it.
Oak Hill
Yeah,
is, yeah,
the little one.
is the dirt road
Yeah,
that goes.
yeah.
Okay. Here we go. McNay, finally. Mr. Bichette, you want to bring everybody up to August 2019, 2019. So this has been around for a while.
Over 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this project site is at 49 Warren Point Road. And this project came out of a violation that involved some cutting work in the buffer zone to the coastal bank at this site. And so an application was submitted to address the work there, and they had another project as well, which was to redo some of the house and so forth at that site. So we issued a order of conditions for that, but we issued some conditions that spoke about no further cutting within certain distance of the coastal bank. And I think there was some concern about the language of the conditions, and so the applicant appealed our decision on that case. So there's an ongoing appeal as we speak right now on this particular case. So that's where things stand. There was a suggestion by our town attorney that maybe if we discussed the wording of the condition to clarify it, that maybe that would resolve the appeal. And so that's why this is in front of us tonight to discuss. So Sandy, I know you had some direct discussion with.
Yes, I did have a meeting, and it was, they felt that the order of conditions didn't even allow them to prune some trees or to mow the lawn down there. Anyway, we come back with a, what am I going to say, a clarification of the order of conditions. And what it did is allow me to read the two components that we're looking for a modification to the change to the order of conditions. The planted areas along the top of the primary coastal bank shall be allowed to grow into natural or wild conditions. And if you have those pictures, I will show you what they cleared at the coastal bank, and which is what we're saying will be returned to a natural condition. So that's what they had cleared at the coastal bank, which is why there was the, we came back to them and said, can't be. Then what we have on it is the second clarifications. No cutting work shall be allowed on the primary coastal bank or within 30 feet of the top of the primary coastal bank, with the exception of being allowed to maintain an opening for the path that leads down to the coastal beach. The term cutting work herein should not include mowing the lawn and or pruning the planted area along the top of the coastal bank or within 30 feet. And this should be a continued conditions. Let it go natural and no mowing.
So I guess my question that I would just like to understand, are we being asked to amend the order of conditions, basically?
I believe that is what they're looking for, that, yes. This is a mere clarification to better define the order of conditions for these two pieces I've just read. Did I get your name?
Attorney Jim Marsh.
Thank you. You probably told us, and I didn't write it down. Okay. Because this is an email from Jim that went to Mr. Bowen, and Mr. Bowen, our town attorney, forwarded it to me.
And could you just bring everybody up to speed where things stand with this?
So,
Yeah, why did he file, what was in the order of conditions that the Mr. McKay filed?
well, the concern was that, that the area along the primary coastal bank wouldn't be able to be pruned, along with the fact that there's a lawn area in front of that that's been mowed historically. And the concern was that the conditions, the way they read, wouldn't allow him to do that.
The mowing.
Right, he's not
Yes.
looking to, vista prune, he's looking to just maintain a lawn that's been there for quite a long time, as well as just maintain a steady height of those plants that will grow naturally and wild, in that wild condition along that primary coastal bank, So
That was his concern, that our order of conditions would not allow him to mow.
just wanted to make sure there was an understanding between both the commission and the owner going forward, that there wouldn't be any question as to the activities out there and if they were in violation of the order.
So when you say to continue to mow, at where, like, if I'm looking at these pictures now, what area is he talking about? Is he talking about the green area, or is he talking about down here if stuff was to grow down in the, closer to the bank?
You want me to come up?
Yeah, I just want an understanding of what you would have a better understanding of what your client is thinking based off of the pictures I'm looking at.
He's not gonna touch the top of the coastal bank, this area right here.
Yeah.
He is gonna continue to mow this area that's already mowed.
Okay, so we're not talking about encroaching further down the bank. He just wants to be able to cut the grass that is,
And he's not-
that's continuing to grow.
Primary coastal bank.
And I
See-
would assume he's not putting fertilizer there, he's gonna let it grow naturally, you know, and.
Yeah, because he had cleared all
I
the way
remember-
down to the
I remember
coastal
this site.
bank.
I
Cut it,
remember.
dug it all up.
So,
So is this current state? Or is
So-
this
so as part-
2019?
As part of the order of conditions, there was a plan to replant that disturbed zone and, you know, then leave that to be natural. In other words, to go back to the way it was.
That's correct.
And so I have not been down there recently to see what may or may not have been done, honestly, with that.
So has there been any replanting of anything down there, or is it still just in its natural state of what it was based on those pictures?
I don't believe anything's been done because what we've.
Because this has been under an appeal.
but, and,
been
and
litigation for.
the other, you,
So these areas that he's agreed and he ordered him to restore will be restored.
Okay.
And he's not gonna mow into those areas that are.
So he's essentially gonna follow the restoration that we've requested in these areas that he did, but he still wants to be able to continue to mow up
Yeah,
to
but-
that point.
I think you have to mow, as far as, it's beneficial to do that mowing if you have kids down there and people who are walking to the beach. You need to have a pathway because the ticks are incredible, and I think like anybody, you know, it's only.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with allowing him to continue to mow up to the primary area, but I want to make sure that
I think
everything else that was supposed to be restored
Sandy
gets
said
restored.
30 feet, right? You said 30 feet that they had to leave, 30 feet.
Or up,
That's
planted
cutting.
along the top of the coast, or primary coast, or within 30 feet of the top of the
Yeah.
coastal.
30 feet. So 30 feet
Or,
from the,
it said or,
But that is cutting,
yes.
and cutting doesn't include mowing.
So what they're looking to do is that,
cutting doesn't include mowing.
no cutting work shall be allowed in the primary coastal bank or within 30 feet of the top of the primary coastal bank, with the exception of being allowed to maintain the opening for the path that leads down to the coastal beach. So that's it.
Yeah, and just to clarify what he just mentioned, they would be allowed to mow the grass, as they have
Yeah.
been doing, right up and within the 30-foot to the disturbed area. like
So
you just
only,
mentioned.
only up to the disturbed area. We wouldn't be continuing to
No.
cut, because that's all gonna be
Restored.
restored.
To restore that,
Right.
yep.
But what
So,
are they doing with the path?
The path that existed would still be allowed to be maintained. That's,
Which, I mean,
Cut.
They can cut that.
They have access.
Keep
to
it.
it.
well, yeah, I
It
mean,
is an opening.
you know, they're not gonna sit there and make a nice stone pathway, but they're gonna keep it so they can get access to the, which is, I mean, I think is fine, as long as we get the restoration that was supposed to be done.
Yep.
You know, mowing up to keep it, you know, to keep it down for ticks, I can understand that. I have kids, and, you know, I wouldn't wanna have my kids go down there and be having a good time and, you know, get ticks and end up with any type of diseases. So I can totally agree with that, but, you know, I would just make sure that we, you know, obviously, let's get some resolution to this. It's been around for a long time. Sure, it's been a little expensive, so let's try to figure this out, replace what needs to be, you know, redone, continue to cut up there to keep it so that it, you know, is safe for everybody, and move on.
Yep,
so I don't have a problem with necessarily what's been presented. My only question is procedurally, what has to happen?
So, when we received the order, we appealed to DEP.
Yeah.
And they issued a superseding order under the
Right.
Wetlands Protection Act.
Yeah.
So here we are, I guess, requesting the commission issue, essentially it would be administrative, you know, an order of conditions with these changes to these two provisions.
So I think
Only under the
that's,
bylaw.
I think that's what I would need to clarify with our attorney as to procedurally, can we do this through the appeal process, or do we need to actually have a hearing to amend an order of conditions, just like we do with any order of conditions that we amend that requires a public hearing? So that's the question that I need to clarify with our town attorney as to procedurally what has to happen.
Right. So, so I sit on the Foxborough Commission, and we've had situations like this where it's not a major, it's really not even a minor, it's an administrative change. So where you have a minor or major, major would require likely filing a brand-new notice of intent. But with a minor, you would have to require notice and have a public hearing. I think with an administrative, you know, it just takes a vote of the board, and you don't have to actually have abutters notified through the process that you would have for a minor, or especially a major deviation from what was.
So you'll reach out to Mr. Bowen and ask him, and then determine whether or not we need a public hearing to make this, or we can vote on it on the
Yes,
agenda.
yes, if it
So we need
says,
to reach out
That's
to
fine.
Mr. Bowen
Yeah.
first.
Whatever makes the commission comfortable, because obviously we want to put this to bed, figuratively. But
But also make sure that we're compliant in all aspects
exactly,
of the
no,
law.
I don't want anything, you know, any question at the end of the day. Because what we would want to do is get a new order of conditions that we would record at the registry, and then get this work started.
Yeah.
You know, that you've permitted us to do, so. And I
So-
would think it would only need to be under the bylaw.
yep, yeah, because the other one, the superseding order's already been issued from DEP.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is strictly an appeal now under the town bylaw, which has to be resolved. Yeah.
So I think I think within the next couple of weeks, you'd be able to have a conversation with
Yeah, I
the
think,
attorney.
I
and
think
then-
by the next meeting, I should be
I
able
would
to.
hope.
Yeah, can I have it on for the next meeting, please?
I mean, what's another 2 years?
I know. We had this meeting, this settlement discussion, which went really well, but that was on July 1. I know, we're in November. I know, with everybody's schedules, it's not easy to try to get things accomplished, but timely, but.
All right,
I
so,
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
awesome, thank you.
So we'll hear from Mr. Bowen and then put it on our December
First.
1st agenda as we need to, okay?
Yep.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank
You too, thank you.
Have a safe trip home.
Thank you.
Why are you ladies still here?
So I have to tell you
We're still on the air. You want to come up and talk, or do you want us to adjourn the meeting?
No, I have.
As long as it's,
no,
as
I
long
have-
as it's
I
not
have
gonna
questions.
constitute open
Yeah,
meeting
sorry.
violation.
I have questions and stuff before we
Oh, yeah,
adjourn
let's
the
go.
meeting.
Let's have your question.
The Department of Environmental Protection, this letter, I'm assuming you want us to attend.
I would like those members who want to be involved and be up to speed with what goes on at the proceeding to attend if they wish to. You're not required to, but I wanted everybody to be aware of the fact that this meeting has been scheduled, and so that way, if you want to go, you could attend.
Okay, would somebody let us know, like, where they're meeting and everything?
It will be
Yes.
at the site.
Once,
Oh, yeah,
once,
it's a
once
big
I
site.
find out the exact location point, then I will convey it to everybody.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
In reference to our lack of minutes, I'd like to find out how the minutes were done in the past, who did them, and the number of years that you worked on them, from what I understand. There was somebody who did your minutes.
Yes, Kelly Barrasso was the administrative assistant for the commission for, I don't know, 15 years or somewhere thereabouts.
I'd like to
Administrative,
make-
wait a minute, I'm trying to
sorry.
write this down.
I'd
Assistant.
like to make can we put minutes on the agenda for December 1st so we can fully talk about them? Because they're not on the agenda now, and I feel I'm uncomfortable carrying something that.
Was not on the agenda?
Yes.
And it's
Okay, I
important.
was just trying to get some background information so that I was up to speed on what was going
I
on
can
with all
answer
of
those
this.
questions for you.
Off
But
record,
no discussion.
with no discussion.
Yeah, you can't discuss them, but you can get some information on them.
That's what I would
Yep.
want, is the information.
Well, you got some of it already.
I did get
Kelly's
some of it
always-
already.
Kelly, every minute, all the minutes you see on the town website for Conservation Commission has always been done by Kelly.
And that's not any top secret information.
Nope.
That's,
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out.
Yeah.
I mean, she worked, and as an administrative assistant, was her title?
I don't
She
know
was
what it-
paid for this position?
Denise just wants to know where the money went.
yeah, that's okay. We'll discuss.
Okay, we'll discuss that, all right.
Yeah, if they funded her then, why aren't they funding somebody now? And
Well,
that's,
that's what I'm trying to find out,
Yeah.
how she was funded, and so that we can proceed forward.
We'll put, please put minutes on our discussion for our next meeting, and we can have it
Will do.
talked about. And I'm just gonna make a point that if somebody sends out an email and copies all of us, our response must be to only the person who sent out the email. Carol's not feeling well, and we all responded regarding Carol's not feeling well to everybody, and it should have gone to her and her alone. It is not a general discussion for everybody, and we've done this several times, so please respond only to the person who sends the email, not,
But what if my computer only says reply all?
then you can't.
Then you have to adjust it on your own, you just delete people.
I'll text her.
Yes, please, I mean, we come close to violating some things recently, and we should not be. Okay, if that's done, do you
Mo-
want us for anything, or you'll wait until we adjourn?
Motion to close the meeting.
Adjourn.
Close the meeting, adjourn the meeting, I mean,
That's the motion.
Second.
I have a second, all in favor?
aye.
9:12. Thank you.
I didn't say to close the hearing, I said close the meeting.